Hi, I'm Dennis Quaid, and I just talked to Kara. And I think you ought to listen to what we talked about. Maybe you can figure it out and let me know, because we've touched on so many things, and I think she's a therapist, and she kind of therapist me. You know, she out-psyched me.
I love it.
Anyway, it was a very interesting conversation.
Hi, I'm Kara, and this is Really Famous. Today, my guest is Dennis Quaid. He has been in so many movies, I almost don't even know what to say or where to start, but I'll name a few. The Right Stuff, The Rookie, Far From Heaven, The Parent Trap. You know him, I'm sure you do, but do you really know him? I think you will a little bit more after this talk. Dennis, by the way, has a new podcast. It's called The Dennisance, and it's put out by Audio Up. You can get it now on your favorite podcast app. Dennis interviews musicians and newsmakers and celebs like John Carter Cash and Clint Black. New episodes drop every Wednesday. So now back to this podcast, mine. We recorded it just last week, so it's nice and fresh. And there's also a video you can watch on my YouTube channel, youtube.com/reallyfamous. So make sure you subscribe to that if you're not subscribed already. But you are, right? You're subscribed to my YouTube channel? You should be. So, by the way, you'll hear Dennis mention Meg. He's talking about Meg Ryan. Back in the day, they were married, and he talks about Jack, that's their son. Now, Dennis is engaged, and in fact, he was supposed to get married to his fiancée, Laura, but then a pandemic hit. So, we'll get into that. And much more, I promise you. Here's Dennis Quaid and me very recently. It looks like we are good. How are you, Dennis?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. So y'all settled in doing this kind of thing now, like nothing?
I don't know about like nothing, but it sure is a lot of fun.
Yeah. I mean, it's better than nothing. How about that?
Yeah, especially during the lockdown that we've had. I mean, we've been busier than bees around here.
Yeah.
As I'm sure you have too.
Definitely. So at first, I never did this kind of remote interview. For our show, we only did in person. That's it, all the time. So anytime somebody was somewhere else and asked to do a phone or a remote or whatever, it would always be the same. No, this is in person only.
Yeah.
But then this happened, and I have to tell you, it's all right. I pivoted, and I'm happy to be doing it rather than doing nothing. It's much better than not doing it, for me.
Yeah, for sure. There is some kind of chemistry that is great from being live in the same room.
Yeah.
But I think it's a new skill that all of us have learned to do over,
I guess,
working people, even my kids at school. So
I know. Anyway, congrats on your podcast.
Thanks.
How are you liking it? Good?
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. And, I'm using a lot of people that I've known over the years as well. I'm learning a lot about them myself in a new way.
That's what happens, right?
But I've had a very lucky life and very interesting life, really, and with so many people that I've come into contact with as an actor. And also as an actor, I do research on the characters that I play. A lot of them are real life people that are still alive today. And that research that I used in acting, I brought to the podcast. So it's a little bit like finding out what makes somebody tick.
Yeah. So are you doing much research before each interview, or do you is that your research is the talking part?
No, I do some research, generally before, but even for the people that I know, I don't read people's press clippings, my friends.
Right.
So from there, I try to find a little nugget, and it's usually, goes back under their childhood or, where they were forming their ideas about what they wanted to do in life. And just to get their story.
Yeah.
Which is,
yeah.
And find something that didn't know before.
So I listened to your Adam Carolla show the other day. That was so interesting. I kind of knew a little bit about the fact that he had an interesting start or whatever, but I don't listen to his show. I don't know him personally. And I thought it was really interesting. So I guess you did a little research about him, right? But you're friends with him. And then it was nice. You did a good job. I'm going to give you a little feedback. I think you did a great job of letting him just talk.
Yeah. Well, I've known him for a couple of years, and but only as acquaintances and as a guest on his show. And so getting into this and really finding out about his story. And he's an interesting guy.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I love that whole thing because I also realize he's a good storyteller, right? So I'm listening to his story about when he went to the radio station, and he gives all the details, what time it was, what time the building opened, he was waiting here, he was waiting there, and it just was very compelling.
Yeah, how he got into the room, all that stuff.
Very interesting.
Sort of like a movie script a little bit.
So do you feel like you're getting to know everybody better then as you talk to them?
A little bit, and it each week goes by like that. As another one's coming up, and it keeps you really busy editing them and finding new people as well. Luckily, I know a lot of people.
Yeah, that's an advantage, I would think.
Yeah.
So what do? You decide who you want to be on the show, or do you discuss it with somebody, or how does that work?
Yeah. We all at Audio Up. We all discuss, who would be a great guest, and we're doing a season here. How long is your season? Do you
seasons.
Go all year long?
All year. I know. I noticed yours is 8 episodes or something?
Well, yeah, but season 2 is going to start right after. So
okay. Well, so when does season 2 start?
Season 2 will start right after season 1.
Literally 1 week later? The next week?
I guess so. Originally, it was supposed to deliver 8, but I think it's already 10, and I'm having such a good time with it. I just want to keep going.
Yeah, I love it. I would not want to stop it at all. It's I think I hear that about from every podcaster pretty much. I love it.
Well, what made you want to get into it?
So I have an interesting background. I'm actually a therapist. So I was a therapist in private practice for a while. And then I started writing on the side. And the more I started writing, the more I liked it. So I just kept writing. So I was I kind of turned into a journalist who covered mostly profiles and Q&As with actors. So that just became my niche. And then as it went along, I would like to have these really in-depth conversations. I would sit down with somebody in their place or whatever, and we would sit there for 3 hours and have the greatest talk. And I did not want to just shrink it down to my narrative on a small section of a newspaper or magazine. So decided to do a podcast.
So your conversations can be 3 hours long?
They can. Not this one. Don't worry. You're welcome to. But I'll tell you what, I definitely have had 3-hour conversations. It's rare that it's really kept to a short time period. And I tell everybody, listen, you need to at least allot an hour, because that's what it takes, I find, to really get into things. And you know what I mean? You've probably seen it. I don't want to do it in a rush. I don't want sound bites. I don't want you to feel rushed. And, I'll edit it down if it's 3 hours, though.
Yeah. Like Tanya Tucker, who she and I are very good friends. We just started talking and it was 2.5 hours and it felt like it was 45 minutes.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, it just depends on, I guess, on the day and on the people and really what we're talking about. I don't really have any time limit on any of it. Don't like to do that.
Yeah. But, I don't know how it is with you, but sometimes when I'm working with publicists or managers, they're like, okay, we have them on a certain time frame. We can only allow this amount of time, and you have to kind of work with that, I guess. I mean, what do you do when they do that?
Well, I've been on the other side of that so many times. After you've done after you've done already 50 interviews in a day, and you don't really have the inclination. You're sort of tired of yourself talking. So I understand that.
Yeah, and the thing about that is, and that's what I always try to make clear, is that This is not the kind of interview you put in the middle of a press junket. It's not the kind of interview you do after a million other interviews like that. You're not going to be asked the same questions, and I'm not looking for the same answers, so there's like no stress. So
yeah, there's always those 5 standard questions that they ask you. I've been on junkets, usually you're done down at the Four Seasons Hotel when you have a movie coming out, and they will have like 60, 70, 80 people come in from all over the country. You sit down in a little 5-minute television interview in a hotel room that you could have said the same thing in a press conference to everyone, but they want the audience to feel like you came to their town and you're talking to just them, I guess. But I've done 75 in a day of those.
What? That is brutal.
And I really kind of appreciate that they're the same 5 questions after a while, because your brain just won't function.
Gotcha, great. So what do you ask every time? Like, what are those 5 questions for you?
So
by the way, you're not going to answer them for me. You're just going to tell me what they are.
Who have you not worked with that you'd like to work with? Passion project out there. How did you like working with so and so? In this particular project, all that stuff. And you come to. It's standard stuff. You want, they're doing their job too. You want to help them out.
Yeah.
You want to sell the movie.
Yeah, but at the same time, it must be like, okay, you just know it's probably autopilot after a while.
Your brain gets scrambled, but at the same time, we're not working for a living, are we?
That's right. That's a good point.
You got to remember that.
Right. So what don't they ask you that you feel like, I'm so surprised that nobody asks me this?
Really? I really don't know, to tell you the truth. I'm so surprised that they don't ask me that. I'm hoping they don't ask me about that.
About what?
Anything particular that I might be sort of struggling with at the time myself and not ready to talk about.
Oh, so like usually a personal thing?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You seem to get a little personal in interviews, though, right? Like, you don't seem totally guarded, at least what I've seen you do in the past.
Yeah, that is come out. There's always kind of I always kind of keep a little bit of a distance, but sometimes there's a lot of things about myself personally that I used to be very guarded about. And as I've gotten older or whatever, I just go, oh, what the hell?
So like, what are those things that you wouldn't before talk about?
I would say, like maybe my personal life, or maybe I'm not always like the best at this. I'm not always like a perfect dad. I'm not always a perfect husband. I'm not always a perfect this. I'm not always a perfect that. And just these are kind of things that I don't mind sharing so much.
I mean, you don't have to be perfect, though.
No. Well, there's a feeling that you have to be. I think that has to do with judgment. You don't want to be judged.
You're going to be judged no matter what, though.
Yes, it's true.
Right.
Yes, that is true. Just read the comments of anything on the internet.
Do you read comments of anything?
I used to. Yeah, that's one of the things that we'll talk about. I used to read comments, back when the internet really first started, and but then it's not good to read those things, good or bad, actually, and most of them are bad, by the way, because they like to be snarky. But I don't think it's good to read those things because it infects your mind.
So why do you think reading the good is bad?
But it's like reviews. I don't really read reviews because it's one person's opinion, and if I accept the good ones, then I have to accept the bad ones.
Right.
Not that I don't want to be constructively critical about something or a piece of work or whatever, but
I just think it's a thing that based on self-esteem, and if you base your self-esteem on something outside of yourself, then you have to open up both sides of that equation, which is,
Yeah, I think that's the whole thing. It's like, I know I've heard that before. We're like, okay, if you're going to listen to the good ones, then you have to listen to the bad ones. But I don't know that you need to listen to the bad ones, so that doesn't really even make sense. Some of them might be, give you some feedback that maybe you didn't see that could be constructive. But by taking all of that as something that is what you like put into your system, that's sort of dangerous territory to be, that you're letting other people's reactions to you. And these are also, who are they, right?
Yeah, who are these people anyway? Yeah, are they film critics? Are they, who are they?
Yeah, who are they?
Yeah.
Nobody knows.
When you were a therapist, did you specialize in anything?
Nothing too specific, but I kind of found myself in the place of just not very deep issues, like not really psychiatric disorders. I stayed away from that. I mostly help people with self-esteem and relationship problems and really just all about that. So it was very regular stuff. Some anxiety and depression, but mostly helping people feel better and make better choices for themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why did you want to become a therapist to begin with?
So you want this story?
Yeah, I do.
All right. True interviewer that you are. I'll tell you. So the story is, I majored in accounting in college, got a job in business, knew I hated it, got a second job in business at Comedy Central, still didn't like it. It was Comedy Central, but it was still business. I knew that wasn't for me. And at Comedy Central, I would basically sit in my office and people would come in and out and tell me all their problems. And I was so into all their problems. Loved hearing about the problems and giving them feedback. It was like the greatest way to spend the day. And at the time, I think I was watching Nick at Night a lot. And the Bob Newhart show was on, reruns. And, Bob Newhart played this psychiatrist, and people would just come in and tell him their problems. Right. And I was like, I could be Bob Newhart. I think I could do that. Not the comedian, but his character. So I went to grad school and became a therapist.
Wow. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. What do you think of therapists?
Therapists? Well, I've had several in my life many who have helped me, actually. And then sometimes I've felt like that I've been in there too long.
That can happen.
You know what I mean? Sometimes it just perpetuates itself. There has to be some kind of a conclusion to that. It's hard for me to understand sometimes how people can go a psychiatrist or a therapist or whatever. What is the goal? Without having a goal to it, as far as figuring out something that is really kind of an issue in their life.
Yeah. I mean, I think also a lot of people probably start therapy because they know they don't feel good, but they don't necessarily know what the issue is. That's in my experience. So that they don't even necessarily know the goal except to feel better. And then it's sort of in my hands to help them figure out what is the issue? Why don't you feel good? And then work towards that. But I hear what you're saying. I think that's true, especially now. Like, you can't just be in therapy for, you can. If it helps you a lot, why not? I don't have a problem with that. But I think
I'm not against people doing it or on a weekly. It's great to have somebody to talk to who's intelligent and knows you so well.
Yeah, exactly. It's like a luxury. But I do think it's nice to have if you don't want to do it forever, to be able to have that end goal. So it's not like all or nothing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. What about you? Have you ever been to a therapist?
That's a good question. I haven't. I know I probably should have. I studied at Columbia, and not the country, the university, and a lot of the therapists, the professors would talk about like having a therapist, every therapist going to a therapist. And some programs I know mandated that, but mine did not. So I never did. I never even felt like I needed to. I'm very self-aware. What can I say? I analyze myself, but not to like an extent that it goes too far.
Right. Yeah, I get that. I mean, if you're, why fix it if it ain't broke?
I guess. The funny thing is that a lot of therapists, I think, could really use some therapy. And
I gotta agree with you.
I can tell you that I worked with therapists, or like I would get people in therapy from another person, from another therapist. And like the stories I would hear would be like, oh, I cannot even believe what you went through with your last therapist. And so I think it's probably.
What do you think that is? Do you think that some therapists maybe imprint their own life experience to another person, maybe in a situation or issue that they themselves have gone through, that their personal experience of?
Possibly. So there's a term for that. That would actually be counter-transference. So if somebody who's in therapy, so a patient or a client, whatever term you use, starts to do that kind of thing with you as a therapist, then they are doing what's called transference. And some therapists, that's their goal, is to actually have that happen, because I'll give you an example if you want to get into the technical aspect of it. Mm-hmm. So let's say you come to me and you had a bad relationship with your father growing up. By the way, I'm pulling this out of thin air, so hopefully I'm not striking a chord if that was the case. But so you come in with your own issues about, or let's make it your mother, since I'm a woman. So you had a difficult relationship with her growing up. You end up in therapy, and you at some point start acting with me as if I'm your mother. And so you're doing behaviors that you would have done with her. So so you're transferring your relationship with her, or your feelings towards her, onto me. And what my job is now is to act in a healthy way instead of as your mother would have acted to you, to help you learn how a healthy mother-son relationship would be.
Yeah.
Now, if I respond to you,
the mother-son relationship would have this involved emotion and reaction.
Yeah.
You know, based on the dysfunction of the relationship, whereas the therapist needs to be a little above that and aware, self-aware.
Right. But if the therapist responds in a personal, emotional way herself, then she is experiencing counter-transference, and you have to work around. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but if you can identify it and then adjust your behavior accordingly, it could work. So did you know you were coming in to talk about the nitty-gritty part of therapy today?
Jesus, I think we ought to do this every week now. You're my new therapist.
And I even give you the inside scoop on how it works.
Well, usually I've gone to a therapist, but it's been during crisis times in my life, and but nothing going on right now. It's really good stuff. Plus, also, I think I've gotten to the point, or I feel like I have, that I kind of know me so well that I'm not really going to hear anything new or
no more insights to have.
Ground shatter. No, I'm sure there's plenty of insights, but I can find them myself. Does that mean I need therapy?
Well, no, that's not. Now you're sounding like me. That's what I just said. I basically just said, remember, you asked me if I had seen a therapist. I said, no, I'm pretty self-aware.
Yeah.
So we're doing the same thing here.
Plus I don't have the time in my week.
Yeah, well now you can do it remotely. With this, it's like you just like we're doing this. You can see a therapist like this, and it's much easier that way, I think.
Well, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, it depends. So that's my background, and that's my approach that I take to most of my interviews too. It's not that I'm trying to analyze, you or whatever, but it's very interesting to me, the person beneath the surface. You know what I mean? There's so much that goes on with everybody. I want to know.
Yeah, that's what acting is. It has a lot to do with the psychology. In fact, that's why I wanted to get into it. The very first week I was in acting class in college, Mr. Cecil Pickett, that's where he spoke of acting was as really finding out what makes somebody tick, according to the way they walk, how they hold themselves,
their demeanor. It's very interesting, to get beneath the layers, and I start with the outside usually, about just watching people, and then kind of coming up with a story about them myself, but then talking to them, it sort of reveals the outside of why they are that way.
So like, who are you? Yeah, I do. But like, who are you talking about?
Well, somebody who stands like this, all the time, or somebody who's like, what does this mean?
Yeah. So you'll analyze it. You'll see somebody like that and you'll be like,
I go with body language and try to go inward from there.
And then so are you analyzing everybody you meet?
Maybe unconsciously, but I don't have enough compartments for that all the time.
Okay.
Do that all the time.
But I guess when you're acting,
I like to watch people. I love to watch people.
Oh, me too. I could sit on a bench, and just, if now there aren't that many. Actually, people are starting to get out again, and you're starting to see people. I could sit on a bench and just watch people for hours. It's so fascinating.
Let me ask you this, because the times that I've been out now too, especially in the last couple of weeks, I've started to really sense this sort of general depression in people's demeanor and the way they relate with people, especially like strangers, like a Bel Air Country Club. I'm there, and it's just people are just kind of moseying around, just kind of a general malaise.
So wait, this was at the country club?
Well, no, this is like everywhere in general. I've noticed that people are sort of have been different. Like there's in general sort of mild depression, which is kind of taken over.
That's interesting. So I don't know that
maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just me. I don't know.
Well, I mean, the amount of people I've seen since the outbreak has been, relatively small, I guess, compared to who I would normally see. But I don't know. I mean, it depends on where you are, I think. Like, I that's why I'm asking, like, where was this? At the country club, or like, where are you?
Well, I see it at the country club. I could see it, at the grocery stores. People in their cars.
Well, do you think that's related to coronavirus?
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you think it's getting worse.
And the lockdown. Well, it's the lockdown. There's kind of you get locked down for like a couple of months like this. This is an experience nobody's ever had. It starts, our identity is all wrapped up in what we do, and our friends and our relationships that we have, and our daily routines, and that's our identity. That's really kind of who we are, and it's I think it's taken its toll on people over the past couple of months. It really has, just in a sense, because it really is kind of like similar to war in the sense that it's kind of maybe the 1,000-yard stare after a while. It's like, when is this ever going to be over?
Yeah. And I think we probably don't even realize the repercussions of it all, even like just, personally, regardless of the other things that has changed everything. But I think that'll be like, in hindsight, we'll be able to look back and be like, oh, everyone was really sort of like walking around in a stupor, or whatever it was, reluctant to really interact with other people on like a deeper level. Who knows? I guess we'll see that later. But I mean, it's tough, and everybody's experiencing it so differently. And I think it's easier for some people than others, obviously. Are you sort of like are you okay on your own? Or I feel like you would want to be, like, you like to be around other people often.
Yeah, well, I've got my family here, my fiance as well. And it's been great premarital therapy, actually. So you really find out.
What are you finding out suddenly?
Well, with everything, about you're really living with someone. We were supposed to be married on April 4th, and this hit, and we were here. So it's you're with each other all the time. So it's like living together for 2 years within the 3
At least.
And glad to report that,
Yeah.
that's all good.
So were you living together before? Were you already living together?
No, she lived in Austin.
Ah.
But we didn't want to spend the lockdown like the separated.
So you went from
each other.
long
Plus
distance
Yeah.
to super close distance.
Yeah, well, long distance, but seeing each other pretty much every week.
Okay.
Yeah. But super close distance, yeah.
Yeah, that's like, I think it's, I mean, again, some people are thriving in it. Some relationships are thriving, others not so much. But it is an interesting dynamic, I think. So you were supposed to get married April 4th. So what'd you do? Did you just cancel everything?
We had to cancel. We're going to be in Hawaii, and so we just had, we had to cancel. And now we've got our own plans.
What do you mean your own plans? What's that?
Well, we have our own plans.
Oh, so, you're going to do it yourselves?
No, we have our plans.
So you don't want to share your plans, is what you're saying?
I don't want to share.
That's one of those things you don't want to reveal in the interview. Mm-hmm.
It's going to happen.
Okay. All right. So are you feeling good? I mean, things are...
Yeah. I really feel like things are starting to open up.
And are you nervous about that, or are you feeling positive about it?
Are you talking about marriage, or are you just talking about in general?
I was talking about in general, but you can talk. We can talk about whatever.
No, well, I feel very positive about it. I think, for one thing, I think there's going to be kind of a spiritual awakening in this because of this. People have had to really, face a lot of issues and deep questions. I think that we all try to avoid most of the time, or just avoid because we don't have time to really address them. And I think all that, a lot of that has come out, by being shut down for the rest of your life.
So what has come up for you? Like, what are some of those things that, like, this period of time made you think about?
Well, of course, you have the fear that everything is. We all want change, right? But we're all dragged kicking and screaming into it once it's actually happening. And before this, my life was going along really at a really great clip, and then everything just got shut down. It was hard to do. All these movies that I was, supposed to do at the time. I had all these plans, and at the first, you wonder at the other side, what is it going to be like? Plus the big macro thing. I mean, is this a virus that's, is it going to be, are the friends of mine who die, my family going to be safe? And afterwards, what about next year? That fear that comes up with the worst case scenarios in your life. And, financially or is, are people going to be even going to movies anymore? All kinds of things that they kind of come up, and you kind of come to a place of acceptance that, for me, it was just like putting myself right in the present moment and saying to myself, well, right now I'm fine. I'm sitting here. Nobody's sick. Everybody's healthy. We've got enough in the refrigerator, and just the simple things that are okay right now today, rather than letting yourself go out to the macro, which is just, that's all the imagination. Just putting myself in the present moment, I always kind of feel helps me quite a bit, instead of having one foot in the past and another in the future.
Right. But the past. So what's the past, though? So what is the past that you don't want to have one foot in the past and one foot in the future? What's the past that you feel like now you're ready to let go of?
Oh, that really wasn't an issue.
Like pre-coronavirus?
It was more, pre-coronavirus. I mean, that was like easy street compared to what
the doom and gloom of the future was going to be during this
Right.
whole episode.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. And I was talking to somebody recently about this, that almost as an actor, I would think you're sort of used to the whole thing of uncertainty, right?
Yeah.
So you like almost have been like your whole life has been about dealing with this moment, to some degree, career-wise.
Well, actors, we get a job and, we finish it and they say, and then you go for, months maybe without knowing what you're going to do next. So we're all used to this.
Right. Although I don't think anybody is, though. Like, nobody I've spoken to, still everybody's like, I don't think I'm ever going to work again. Part of me thinks, am I totally out of a career now?
Yeah.
Do you feel like that at all?
No. I do something. I just came to the conclusion that I'd be all right no matter what it was. And plus I had, the podcast.
Yeah.
Audio Up. We just happened to have started Audio Up a year and a half ago. We've been planning, and we were planning on launching April 1st. Audio Up, is our really podcast, I guess, studio. And it's a platform. We have a slate of about 10 other shows as well that we're putting out, and it was a great time to start that because everybody had a lot of time on their hands.
Yeah. So interestingly, though, you do realize that people are listening a little bit less now to podcasts than they were right before, and probably then they will
not
be
in their cars.
Exactly. So they're not commuting. So they're listening. They haven't dropped. It's not like they've dropped. People have not stopped listening to podcasts. I mean, I listen, and I didn't usually listen in the car. I listen while I'm walking my dog. So I'm still walking the dog, still listening to the podcast. But there has been a dip because of that. So I think your numbers.
I was saying it was a great time to start a podcast platform, simply because you didn't have the other noise of all the movies that are coming out and all the other forms of entertainment that would be coming out. And so it was easy to get on all the shows and advertise.
Plus, I suspect that your numbers are just going to go up once people start getting back in the car again.
That would be great.
Which is good. It is interesting how everybody's, their behaviors have changed. Isn't it weird how certain businesses are like thriving more than ever, whereas others are, obviously it's going to be a huge loss for the whole industry, like travel and whatever else. It's so weird. I just feel like with entertainment, while things will change, people are going to still want movies and TV. And it's just, we can't do without that.
Yeah. During the Great Depression it sparked, the golden age of Hollywood in the 30s. There was so many great movies that were made at the time because people do need entertainment. They just have to be. People would go to the movies and spend all day there.
Yes.
They get away so they wouldn't think about their troubles. There you go.
Yeah, I think I saw something the other day about right after the Great Depression, they made all these huge, big budget looking films or something. Maybe it wasn't on a big budget, but with everybody all dressed up in these extravagant, luxurious clothes and whatever, and people just ate it up. So I think it's going to keep going, but it is a little unsettling, I guess.
People always need to be entertained.
Yeah. So you have been in business for a long time. So how have you personally changed over the period of time? Or what have you learned? How have you evolved? These are kind of like a million questions in one, but answer it any way you like.
Well, the great thing about what I do is that you can do it until you die. You're not limited like athletes, to a certain time where you have to take your ball and go home. Once you reach a certain age or whatever. And so I actually enjoy it more than when I started, I think.
So what, because you're relaxing?
I still have
into it?
Yeah, because I'm doing more of the thing. I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm not trying to get somewhere. When it comes to that goal, it's really about more of the things that really interest me now, which is a lot more exciting. But what I do have, which I did have in my 20s, is fire in the belly for what I do, which I think is very important no matter what you do in life, is to have fire in the belly for it, because it's the thing that gets you up every day and gets you excited. And
if you're tired, you get up anyway. And, but also, you have to, as an actor, you have to adapt because you're changing. I started out playing kids in high school, and then, got to I kind of went from the playing kids in high school right to playing an astronaut in the 30s.
That's weird.
Sort of like I hardly ever played somebody in my 20s, really.
Really? Wait, nobody?
Yeah.
That's so weird. Why did that happen?
I'm going to say nobody, but I would say pretty much in general. That's what it was. I think it's because, you're seen as, how you look and the way you act, and an audience believes what it sees and hears, in other words. And I think actors have to actually make it kind of a conscious remaking of themselves about every 7 to 10 years. They call it the 7-year itch or whatever. But otherwise it just becomes the same old thing. And I think it becomes boring to yourself, like having the same haircut for 40 movies. You need to change something about it.
Yeah. And right. I mean, to keep it fresh, not just.
Yeah, then I went into playing the bad boys, and I went into playing, then that I became the dad, and, now I'm just kind of doing what interests me.
Yeah. So did you consciously make those kind of reinvent yourself here and there, or were you
Yes. Yes. Somewhat I did.
Why?
Yeah, I did. To survive and also for my own interest.
So what happened? Did somebody say, I feel like I might have read something where you said something about, am I getting this right? Where there was in the 90s or something, you weren't hired, and then something was I'm getting this wrong.
Yeah.
And then suddenly.
There was,
go ahead. You tell me so I don't miss.
I cut you off all the time, and I'm really sorry. I finish people's sentences and questions a lot.
I feel like actually we have a similar style of. I do that too, and usually you want to be, as an interviewer, part of the important thing is, let's get off track for a second, is you want to be able to let that person talk, right? But at the same time, you also, I feel need the skill to be able to make it a two-way conversation, so that if you hear something they're saying and you have something to say about it, you jump in. You know what I mean? So there's I think you almost need both, at least for the kind of interview that I think is a good interview. So I think we both sort of do that.
Well, to get back to your question, the thing is that in the 80s, I played Jerry Lee Lewis, and played a lot of bad boys or whatever. And, after playing in Great Balls of Fire, I wound up in rehab in 1990, for cocaine. And at 28 days, I went through that. I got it the first time. You think, well, I took care of this. Now things are going to get better.
That was it. Yeah.
They don't necessarily get better. In fact, it was really kind of another kind of 6-year march, and until I started playing Parent Trap. Actually, it was kind of the first movie to come along where I'm playing a dad. So it was I was playing bad boys. Then all of a sudden I wasn't a bad boy, kind of in a public perception way. And then, so who am I? And it took me a while to figure out who I was.
How did you figure it out?
It just sort of happens. I think I don't know if it finds you or you find it. If there's a search going on, yeah. I mean, I went to India 11 times, during that time in the 90s.
Wow.
And I started meditating. This was all because of the cocaine addiction and filling up that empty space that was there. More than just about acting, but I really was a seeker during that time, and also I got a chance to be a father during that time to Jack, where I wasn't working hardly so much,
And I wouldn't give up that for anything in the world. And then Parent Trap came along, and things started to kind of slowly change because I kind of switched over to playing dads.
Yeah, that's
and then, you know, playing
yeah.
coaches too, which is kind of like the same thing as playing dads. Yeah.
And that's interesting because if that was happening at the same time with Jack, then it kind of fit. It was good to I guess fit together and say, well, maybe this is part of. I can start to look at things a little differently now. Yeah,
sometimes those actors get roles that really reflect their life, and I think that's I don't know if it's accident or what. But The Rookie came along. That was 2002, and it was about second chances, which is what it was for me too. At the same time.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Yeah. And so that was like literally about second chances. And so that was good. So maybe so you probably were able to put more into that role, but at the same time, that role was helping you in real life, maybe.
Yeah, but I didn't even realize it until after the fact.
Oh, so hindsight.
Yeah.
Well, that's like what I was saying before. Like, we'll figure out later how everybody was impacted really by this whole coronavirus situation. But that's so interesting. Another thing I stumbled upon was something about Sleepless in Seattle or something. Like, what were you supposed to get?
Oh, yeah.
What's the story with that?
Oh, Sleepless in Seattle was, it was mine. It was, given to me by the studio, or whatever to do. And then I went into rehab. That was before rehab. Then I went into rehab, and then it wasn't mine.
Oh, bummer. So, okay, well that's a simple story then, I guess, in that sense.
Yeah.
Oh. So then Tom Hanks took it.
And I was with Meg, and Meg did it. I'm not sure. Yeah, Meg and I think we're going to do it at one time. Can't really remember. Or she came in afterwards. Anyway, it was just one of those things that was, like I said, you think things were going to get better. They did. But I used to be a little bitter about things, that I'm not anymore.
Like what? Like roles that you didn't get?
Well, yeah, roles you didn't get or whatever, that beat myself up about. But, it's like, there's no use really concerning yourself with that because the other things wouldn't have come along either.
That's good perspective, but that doesn't come easily. It's not, what I mean? How did you get there? It doesn't. Was that part of the India thing?
I think you compare yourself to where you're supposed to be, or to other people, or people are telling you that you're just this close to that. Like, what was it? Far From Heaven. Yeah, Far From Heaven. I was nominated for a Golden Globe. Everybody was telling me you're going to be nominated for an Oscar. You're going to be nominated for an Oscar. And I never fell into that trap before, about expecting things or whatever. But then Time Magazine was doing I think on the Oscars, so they invited, the actors that were going to be nominated down to have an interview. And so they included me, and it was for Best Supporting Actor. And then it was coming out the week after that, and then I wasn't nominated.
Oh, really? Oh.
So that was stuff that was like, it's embarrassing, and you get hurt by that stuff.
Yeah, but that's tough, especially because everybody's watching.
Don't set yourself up.
But it's weird too because everybody's watching it, right? It's hard enough.
Everybody is, but nobody really
cares.
It's not that big of a deal to they got their own lives to worry about.
That is true. And that is true. That's like a misconception about everybody. People don't realize it. You're always going around thinking everybody's thinking about you and worried about whatever, but nobody's even paying attention. That's true.
They're mostly concerned about thinking that everybody's worried about them.
Exactly. So, all All right, so Meg Ryan, I guess that was are you tired of talking about like that was? I'm sure you guys were in the media all the time back then, right?
Oh yeah.
And so, how did that go? Like, what was that like?
That was like the age of the movie star, I guess, the 80s and the 90s. Yeah, and you'd have people, camped outside your home and follow you everywhere, and it was it was hard to go out and just have anonymity, or somewhat of an anonymity, or just to be alone without somebody with a camera following you.
Yeah.
Just think about.
And for somebody who likes to observe people and take it in, that's tough when you're on the other side always.
It's like being in the fishbowl.
Is it still like that? I mean, do you feel like people are still recognizing you everywhere? And
well, I did get recognized, where I go, but I've sort of embraced it a bit, and it makes it a lot easier to handle. That's one of the ways that I think I felt. I used to really kind of like shun that stuff, or really get irritated about it. But I'm really kind of a people person and interested in people, and I've kind of turned it into a way of getting to know other people out of the blue, because I'll tell you anything.
Well, it depends on who you are.
And I sort of learned to have fun with it.
Yeah.
Basically.
Oh, what people just tell you? You mean like fans or whatever will just tell you all about their lives?
Yeah, sure. They'll tell you. They'll tell you everything.
Like what?
I can have a great therapy business.
What happens? You're like, and they're like, are you Dennis Quaid? And you're like, yes, I am. And they're like, well, let me just tell you.
Yeah, let me tell you. No. You ask them a question, they'll tell you everything there is about it.
That's so funny. So how do you handle fans?
I just have fun with them mostly now. I got into music about year 2000, with a band, and so in front of a live audience every night, and it really kind of helped me get over it, because basically it was kind of you kind of don't feel like you deserve, but sort of thing where you kind of feel like you don't deserve sort of the attention or the success or whatever, or this, that, and I've learned to embrace people. Let's put it that way.
Okay.
I don't make a big deal about it.
Got it. But you're working. You're over the imposter syndrome.
Yes, the imposter syndrome. Yes. You got some good terms.
I went to school. What can I tell you? All right, so let's do this. I'm getting a warning from your peeps that you need to get wrapped up. So.
Oh, my reps, my publicist who's protecting me.
Yes, exactly. Your protective publicist who.
You have one of those people.
Who wants to make sure that you don't have to answer the same questions over and over, and that you don't have to be too tired for your.
No, you're great.
Whatever. Thank you. Okay, so let's do this. This is what I told them before, your reps, your protective people. We'll do like a 5 to 10 minute video just to post up on YouTube, social media, whatever. It'll kind of tease the podcast. More people will know to listen to it. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to ask you questions that are like similar to what we already talked about, but you just answer them however you like. Good? Okay.
Right.
Thoughts on that? Are you ready?
Let's go.
All right. Dennis, are you an optimist or a pessimist?
Optimist.
You want to elaborate?
Oh, an optimist? Well, I'll bet on myself. Let's put it that way.
So you're an optimist about yourself.
When it comes to a future or something and an uncertainty, I will bet on myself.
Okay.
So I would call myself an optimist.
Okay. Introvert or extrovert? I think you already told me this on the podcast.
Yeah, an extrovert.
Elaborate.
I'm an extrovert in that I'm a people person, and I always keep a bit of privacy to myself.
Okay. What's one topic you cannot stand being asked about?
Topic that I cannot
stand to be asked about. I would say my looks.
Okay. Do people ask you about your looks? What do you mean? Like, what do you do?
Now, people comment on my looks or this or that or whatever, and the way I look. I don't like talking about the way I look.
Okay, then let's get off that topic.
Like, when somebody comes up and goes, "You look tired. Are you tired?" I hate that.
That's the worst. Why say that? If you
I hate that.
think something like that,
yeah.
There's no benefit in saying it. I hear you.
Yeah.
What is one of your guilty pleasures?
I like to watch bad documentaries on gunslingers and murders and stuff. Replays. Yeah.
Okay. What is one of the most valuable lessons that you've learned about relationships?
The most valuable lesson that I've learned about relationships is that the fault usually lies within myself when there comes to an issue. Instead of looking at the other person outside to like save me or to fulfill something for me, it's something that I really needed to do myself before the relationship's not going to solve. I have to bring what I have learned to the relationship, in other words.
Well done. Did you learn that in therapy?
No. But I probably got to the place where, in fact, that's why I quit therapy.
Wait, really?
Because I figured I could figure it out on my own.
Interesting. But that's very interesting.
All I had to do was self-examine.
Yeah, but that's an important insight, to know that whatever is going on in a relationship is definitely a reflection on you, and you need to figure something out, what's going on for you, to be able to figure the other part out.
Yes.
Okay. Important or valuable lesson you learned from Hollywood?
From Hollywood? It's make-believe, but it sure is a great business. And there's some fantastic people in Hollywood. There really are. The artists that I've met, and Hollywood is a very mean town when you first come here. But after all this time, I have many, many, many friends. I'm very lucky about that.
Who's your best friend?
My best friend is not an actor. I don't really have actors who really know. We're really my friends for the most part because they're so tough involved. Billy Bob Thornton and I, we're really good friends. We talk a lot. Okay. And because he didn't act like an actor either. And I'm just kidding about that, really.
Wait, you and Billy Bob were you in his show? You were, right? What's the name of the show again?
I think Goliath.
Yeah, Goliath. Yeah. How was that?
Yeah. It was excellent. Yeah, just going to work, and he runs such a great set. He's a fantastic human being.
Okay. Who knows you better than anybody else?
Who knows me better than anybody else? Well, I'd say my fiance really knows me really well, but that would probably, who is an actor, who I have to say is, my best friend, is Brett Cullen. He probably knows me better than anybody else. And we've been friends for like 40 years, going back to, Houston at the U of H. And I can't get rid of him. You know what I mean? I got friends you can't get rid of.
I think those are the good friends.
They know me too well.
Those are the good friends. So how would he describe you? If somebody was to say, tell me about Dennis, what would he say? Dennis is...
he'd probably call me a grump.
Okay, leading to the next question, how do you think the general public would describe you? Like, what's the image that most people have of you?
I'm the Parent Trap dad.
Okay.
Or I'm the rookie.
So that you can really
that
tell
would probably
that
be the
think.
image.
Yeah.
I can tell by the look on somebody's face when they come up. What movie it is that they've seen.
So what's the look?
I've got I'm multi-generational, I guess, in that sense. If they're like in their late 40s, or they're probably coming up because of Dreamscape, or it depends on how old they are. But Parent Trap girls are everywhere.
And what do they look like when they approach you? What's the face? Give me the face.
Are you? It's the dad. The dream. I was king of the carpool line when I did that movie.
How about yours?
I love that movie.
Yours, mine, and ours, though. Did they get for that as well?
Oh, and by the way, we did a Parent Trap reunion last week.
How was that?
That's going to be. I'm going to release it as a podcast. We had Katie Couric be the moderator, but it was fantastic. We had Lindsay. That's the first time we've all been together since we wrapped.
That's great. So wait, so you put that together as a podcast recording, or was that something separate?
It's going to be a podcast, as well as Katie Couric is going to use it, as on a television thing.
Okay, so everybody can stay
really
tuned
fun.
for that. It's on the Dennis podcast. Got it. Then my last question for you is, who are you really?
Who am I really? I am a kid from Houston who came out of here to LA and really had such a lucky life, and I'm really grateful for it. And I am looking forward to the future but I just want to enjoy my life on a day by day, in a day by day way.
Okay. All good.
That is an answer. That was a really deflective what I just did, but.
All right, so let's cut the deflection and let's absorb and give the answer that's appropriate and honest. Who are you really?
I'm an actor.
That's it.
I'm my mother's son. I'm a Christian. I'm a Southern Baptist Christian boy from Houston, Texas, who really made it way beyond his dreams.
I like it. Thanks, Dennis.
Okay.
Take care. Good luck.
Take care.
That was Dennis Quaid. Check out his podcast, The Dennisons, on your favorite podcast app. And if you want to see that look he was talking about, because he definitely made a look when he was telling me about the looks he gets from fans, well, you can see it. Go to my YouTube channel at youtube.com/reallyfamous. Thanks for hanging out with Dennis and me for an hour or so. We probably could have talked a little bit more, but protective reps. I'm Kara. This is Really Famous. Talk to you very soon.